The election of 1960 was one of the most controversial and famous presidential elections in U.S. history, as it signified a new era for the political world. Dwight D. Eisenhower was just finishing up his second term, and things were looking pretty good for the most part. People often remember the 1950s as one of the most prosperous moments in U.S. history, considering the fact that it was after World War I, the Great Depression, and right after World War II. Ike was respected for having kept us out of a direct war with the Soviet Union, also respected for ending the Korean War in 1953. However, Ike's old age worried many Americans, worrying that he was no longer capable of leading and that we were going to need a newer and younger leader. This is when the primaries came into play. For the GOP, Nixon was the obvious choice. The only actual competitor that he had in the primaries was none other than Nelson Rockefeller, who Nixon was way more popular than, especially due to being Eisenhower's vice president. The Democrats, however, had a problem. They needed to be very smart with who they nominated. They had run Adlai Stevenson, a former Illinois governor, twice, and he had lost miserably to Dwight Eisenhower. So if they didn't pick someone good, then the Democratic Party was going to be in big trouble. Main two candidates, John F. Kennedy, a Massachusetts senator who had won the primaries very greatly, and Hubert Humphrey, a Minnesota senator who was also quite popular in the Democratic Party, but Kennedy won due to being young and giving a new hope to American people. Many Americans wanted to vote Kennedy simply so that they could move toward a better future. However, many people feared John F. Kennedy, not only because of his lack of experience, but also because of his Catholicism. Many people had a fear that JFK being elected would result in the Catholic Church running the country. Nixon picked Cabot Lodge Jr., a senator from Massachusetts. He had picked Cabot Lodge Jr. not only because of his diplomatic past, but his tough stance against communism, which was very popular because we were currently in the Cold War. Kennedy, however, picked his running mate to be a Texas senator known as Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson did not get along with Kennedy, nor did he have any respect for him. He claimed that he was too liberal. However, Kennedy decided to pick him anyways, because this way he would be able to get the support from both the North and the South. Also, Lyndon Johnson was just commonly known as a very respected politician in the Democratic Party. Now, the 1960 election was the first election to have a televised presidential debate, which, of course, meant one thing: looks mattered. Vice President Nixon was known as a strong debater, and he knew the issues well and spoke very well about them. However, on television, he appeared tired, pale, and uncomfortable. He sweated visibly and looked very nervous, in very high contrast to JFK, who not only had the good looks, but had the look of confidence. He didn't sweat. He answered straight up, which many people loved about the man. Kennedy's main policies were that 1. He wanted the government to have a more active role. 2. He supported civil rights and his anti-segregation ideals. 3. He supported economic stimulation, aka government spending, in hopes that this would boost the economy and reduce unemployment. 4. He supported education, science, and social programs. Nixon, however, was very different. He supported limited government expansion. He also supported civil rights, but he wanted it to be more cautious and a slower process involving more state cooperation, and simply just argued that prosperity was already here due to Eisenhower's policies. So, how did this election go? Well, Harry F. Byrd, who wasn't even on the ballot, ended up winning Mississippi and Alabama, and a single electoral vote from Oklahoma. Nixon's main ground was most of the Midwest and just a few swing states, placing him around 219 electoral votes. Kennedy was able to win a good amount of states in the North due to his experience in Massachusetts, and some states in the South due to Johnson's experience in Texas, placing him around 303 electoral votes. Of course, this means that Kennedy won the election. So on January 20th, 1961, Kennedy was sworn in as the 35th President of the United States, delivering a very strong inauguration speech, including the amazing one-liner,
"Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country."